She intended to like sit at the feet of Jesus and learn, but things got in the way and things popped up and she got distracted from what he was there for.
Yeah, the text says she's distracted. And then Jesus says, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, or sometimes it can be translated, you're anxious and disturbed, or, anxious, worried, upset, disturbed about many things. It's okay.
Sorry.
I guess there's kind of a little bit of a play of words going on in the Greek. So some people think that part of the implication is maybe she was preparing like a super elaborate meal with 10 courses, and there's kind of this thing of like maybe you just go for the simple things so that you actually can have time to do the thing that's really important. So there's some people will interpret it that way. But I do think it's helpful to think someone needed to eat, but something somewhere along the way Martha's gotten lost, and she's distracted and she's worried and anxious and upset, and she's bitter at Mary, who's doing this beautiful thing of coming and sitting and listening to Jesus. And I think, because you're kind of getting at this, I think that it is true a lot of times that can happen to us in ministry and the church too, where we're busy doing a lot of things, but sometimes we forget what the actual purpose of our community is about, what the actual purpose of our life is about. I just want you to think, let's go back to that, Jesus' response. Jesus says, Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Just can you imagine Jesus saying that to you? Does that resonate with you as something that if Jesus could say that to you, I'd be like, yeah, that's true. Grace, Sarah, Hannah, Larry, you are worried and anxious and upset about many things, but few things are needed. Indeed, only one. Does that resonate with you? I just want you to imagine Jesus saying that to you, insert your name. So-and-so, Bethany. You are worried and anxious about many things, but few things are needed. Indeed, only one.
I was just going to say that I think that, yes, that definitely resonates with us, because as humans, sometimes we allow a lot of things to get in the way. We live life and we go through life and it's so busy and things like that. So, and I think that God does say that to us in many different ways, that it's okay, you're worried about a lot of things, but really just one thing is important. And he reminds us of that in different ways. I do personally, I feel like that resonates with me.
Yeah, it resonates with me too. And we'll come back to this, but I just want you to think about that. Think about, what are some of those things for you? What are those many things that you're worried and anxious about? But there's really not, there's very few things that are really needed. Indeed, maybe only one. Just think about that. I think a lot of times we talk about competing priorities in terms of balancing. I just need to balance these different priorities in my life. And, there's definitely spaces for that. But it's kind of interesting. Jesus doesn't, right here, he's not really talking about a balance. He's talking about choosing that one thing. That's what it's about. It's choosing that one thing, the better thing, that one thing that's needed. And there's this idea of, we need to eat. These other things need to get done, but choose that one thing. It's not you're balancing. I think it's easy for us to be okay, I gotta balance my my spiritual life with my school and stuff like that. And Jesus here isn't no, it's not a balance. You choose the one thing first. And then the other things come in to the other space there. Our lives are so full of busyness. And it's really easy to think okay, I'm gonna live differently later on. This college is crazy, and college is crazy, guys. But it's easy to be okay, one day though, I am not gonna, my life is gonna have more balance. my life is going to have better priorities and things like that. But there's this quote that I love. Annie Dillard is this author, and she writes, "How we spend our days is, of course, how we spend our lives. How we spend our days is, of course, how we spend our lives." And that, I hate that. I mean, I like it. I hate it too. Because I think it's easy for me to live day by day, not necessarily living the way that I want to, and living with the priorities today that I would want for my life. But somehow having this disconnect of like, well, I can still have my life be about this, even though each of my days is not about the things that I want my life to be about. But it's true, is not our days our days are, of course, how we're going to spend our lives. And it always, and it's true, college is a uniquely crazy time of your life, but life continues to be crazy. There's always something else. You're going on to grad school, oh my gosh, grad school is crazy busy, all kinds of demands. Entering the workforce, a lot of people, it's easy to have this attitude of well, you just have to totally be all in the first few years, and there's some lines of work that will tell you that. And it's easy just to let things slide by. And then even my husband is, I don't know, he probably doesn't care if I tell. He's 37, and he's been graduate working, and still it's this constant struggle of there are demands, there are always demands, there are always things that are trying to take up your life, trying to take up your time. So I think we just need to we need to not let ourselves say that, even though we can see uniquely college is crazy, but we need to start living now the lives that we want to live. We need to think now, what are the things that are important in my life? What do I want my life to be about? And how can I now live in such a way that is creating space for those kind of things? So, so before I go to the next slide, I just want you to take a minute and think. What is important to you? Honestly, what are the things that are the most important to you? What would you say, what would you like your highest priorities in life to be? Just think about it. And it could be different things, but I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of us would say that we want our priorities to be about, I think we have a lot of probably have some vocational, professional, things that we long for. But I think a lot of us would say, relational things like family, friends, God. So I just want you to think, what do you actually, what are your priorities, or what do you wish they were? And is that, are you living your life that way? Would your life show that those are the things that are important? Those are the things that, when you think of your life, when you look back on your life, this is what it was about. Okay, so I want us to look at this diagram that I've heard different names for it. Have you guys seen this before? Okay, so something said it was the Eisenhower decision matrix. Apparently, it was something that Eisenhower used. Also, this guy, Steve Covey, has used it in his book about the 7 habits of highly effective people, something like that. But we've got, if we look at our days, hey Vivian, can you,
yes.
So, if we look at our weeks, our days, and what takes up our time, we can fit most of these things into one of these 4 categories. So we have things that are urgent, and we have things that aren't urgent. We have things that are important, and we have things that are not important, that take up our time. And I'm handing this out. So what is being handed out is a sheet, and on one side, there's it's like a blank weekly schedule. And we won't have, we're not gonna do this here, but I'd encourage you, when you go home, to try this. Of writing out your weekly schedule, what you actually do, not what you're ideally doing, but what you actually do, so that you can start to see how do I actually spend my time? How do I spend my days? And then think about what categories of which of these categories, the things that I spend my days on, take up. But I want to look at this matrix a little bit. some of them are easy to figure out. So things that are in your life that are important and urgent. What would be some examples of that? Things that are important and urgent. Hey, you've got a paper due Tuesday. Yep. Yeah, a lot of schoolwork, you know, there's a deadline to it, so there's a sense of like urgency, timeliness, and it's important. You know, you're here to be students. It's important. Yeah.
Sleep. I think sleep.
Yeah, I would say so. I might put sleep in the important but not urgent. I think it's urgent. No.
Except
I'll get to that. But yes, I think it should be there. The only reason I say it's not important is because there's no like outside external thing telling you this has to happen now, and so it's easy to put it off until your body like
Dies.
I think there are real legitimate emergencies are important and urgent in crises. Yeah. Then I think there's family. There can be like family stuff with time obligations that's really important and really urgent. Okay, what about things that are not important and not urgent?
Netflix.
Netflix.
League of Legends.
What is it?
League of Legends, the game I play.
Okay, gaming. Yeah. Facebook. BuzzFeed. Hulu. The silly
Smelling the
quizzes.
roses.
Oh my gosh.
I have one today.
Did you do a quiz today? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes in the not important and not urgent category, and that I think we're honest with our, like if you do a thing of like, how do I actually spend my time?